viewpoints of either race or gender or the combination of the two. And so I don't know, I just think it's a passion that I've always had, and I've found a way to, really can't imagine doing anything with my life that did not in some way have as my specific focus working in that direction. And I've been fortunate enough to make that passion part of my vocation.
You know, it is believed that our parents, or when we are children, a lot of our ideas and ideals are formed. And going on that particular basis, I wonder, what was it like for you as, let's say, a 9-year-old child? What was growing up like for you then?
I had an amazing childhood. My parents are incredible, and I'm fortunate in that they're still with me. They had me a little bit older by that day's standards. By today, it's probably a little bit more normal, somewhat. My mom had me when she was 40. And so they are in their mid to easing up into the late 80s right now. We lived in my grandmother's house. It was a deal that my dad had to make with my grandmother to have the opportunity to have my mother's hand. Oh, there's a lot behind that, let me just say. He had some negotiating to do. And so it was a beautiful childhood with my grandmother and my parents. My mother worked. She was a teacher. She taught under segregated schooling for half of her career. She taught for a total of about 30 years. My dad was an entrepreneur. As a child, his parents were sharecroppers, and his father passed away when he was only 14. And being the eldest son, he had to be the wage earner for his family as a 14-year-old. He made the decision early on that he did not want to work, as he said, for a white man. And so he decided to have his own businesses. And by the time I came along and our family was created, he owned a very successful lumber company where he employed all of his brothers and several other people in the community. All of this, and was very successful. All of this with a third-grade education. And so I grew up learning about their struggles, growing up in the Jim Crow South. I grew up understanding what they had to do to survive during that period, and how they not only survived but thrived during the period against the odds. And so what they instilled in me from very early on was this sense of pride in who I am and who we are as a people, respect for our strength and our wits and intelligence and brilliance, and a desire to, and also really acknowledging the inequities and the unfairness that exist in our society, but oftentimes go unspoken. So they really, I think, gave me the foundation to say something is wrong and I can do something about it.
You have courage, obviously, and I can feel your passion. Among or between your two parents, your mom and your dad, who would you say you got what from?
Well, it's very funny because they are very different personalities. Very different. Okay, so my mom, and she is a chip off my grandmother's block. Those two are like female versions of Nat Turner. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They don't play. Okay, they are like on 100 all the time. So yeah, they're very proud.
Yeah.
Very proud. Have a great deal of dignity. Very strong. Very vocal in their opinion. Do not shrink away from challenges, and really, oh my God, let me give you just a quick example of my mom, for example. As I mentioned, she was a teacher. At least half of her career, she taught in segregated schooling, but by the time I came along, they had integrated the schools. And so I just remember her constant battles with her principal in the integrated system, and her continuing mantra of her, daring him to fire her because she couldn't wait to sue him, that type of personality.
Wow.
My father, very, he was, as I mentioned, he was a brilliant businessman, very compassionate, very family oriented, not only took care and, through his business was able to support not only us, but all of the families that he employed, but also took care of his mother till the day that she died. Every week when he wrote a check to his employees, he wrote a check to his mother. So he was just a stalwart family man, but he also had a great deal of emotional intelligence. He could get along, and does to this day get along with anybody. I think one of his secrets to success as a business person was the fact that he was able to formulate relationships with so many different people, a wide array, very diverse set of individuals from, everyone loves him and respects him. And so the sort of fiery part of me, that person who will fight the battles till the very last breath, my grandmother and my mother, and the ability to sort of feel comfortable in any space and be able to exchange conversation and really get along with most people, I think comes from my dad's very, very sharp sense of emotional intelligence.
I am curious about these two matriarchs you spoke so highly of, your mom and your grandmother.
Yeah.
And the Nat Turner's reference. If you were to sort of were to be present whilst the two of them, and maybe some other matriarchs in your family, but especially the two of them, were telling some of the younger generations, the younger women in your family, about life through some stories, what particular stories you think the two of them will tell?
Well, I'll start with my grandmother because my grandmother had a huge impact on me growing up. Because, as I mentioned, my mother worked. She was a teacher. And so when I was real little, before I went to school, she was my primary caretaker. So I spent most of my childhood time really with her. And she, first of all, she fascinated me because it wasn't anything that she couldn't do. I was just amazed by her. She could do everything under the sun, whether or not it was considered women's work or quote unquote men's work. She could do it. I mean, let me just give you a quick example. Like I grew up in a very rural area. And so every summer, sort of the biggest excitement that would happen around my house was when there was a snake, right? And so, oh my God, it's a snake, like the world's gonna end. There's a snake out there. So these are this is how the snake incidents would always be solved. Okay.
We are back with Dr. Avis Jones DeWeever. Avis, tell us about Insight Unlimited and what was the trigger behind it? Sure.
So Insight Unlimited is my consulting firm. And with that firm, I help primarily social justice organizations, so women's rights, civil rights organizations with research and writing, with advocacy strategy development, with communication strategy development. I also help quote unquote mainstream organizations who need to understand how to better engage and connect with the Black community, be able to do so in the Black community, be able to do so in a more effective manner. And I've been doing that now for a couple of years. Absolutely love it. Some of the main projects so far that's come out of my firm that have gotten some of the most publicity has been our work on the State of Black Women report. We're about to come up with our the second annual Status of Black Women report that's going to be coming out later in the month. And also an amazing report that we did with the Center for Global Policy Solutions last year on the racial wealth gap. So just some exciting work that I'm doing there that allows me to continue to hone up on my research chops while also continuing to do work in the policy world.
You in this capacity, engage the White House sometimes. In the beginning, was there any sort of fear of it's being successful? What sort of challenges you had in the beginning?
That's a good question, because it's very interesting how that continues to blossom. I actually, my first sort of really strong engagement with the White House began at the beginning of this administration. And during that time, I was with NCNW, where I served as their executive director after the death of civil rights and women's rights icon, Dr. Dorothy Height. And before that, I headed their research institute. But I started working with the White House really from the beginning, that they had the transition team putting together policy recommendations, having meetings with White House officials, trying to push through or give them ideas around policies that we wanted to push through on behalf of Black women, and continued that relationship throughout the years, culminating in a very at least under that capacity, culminating in a very top-level meeting with the president himself around civil rights issues. And it's funny because that happened, I had that meeting with the president, and the very next day I submitted my letter of resignation to begin working my firm full-time. And it was, you know, it was somewhat of a leap of faith, but I knew that I frankly had done all that I could for that organization, while I also understood that there were a number of other organizations that I could work with, that I saw areas where my abilities could help to enhance their performance in a variety of different levels. And so I made that leap, and within a year I was back before the president, but this time under my own auspices. So a very exciting journey.
Let me put you in another spot. Here is this woman who grew up in the South, in the rural area. And here you are in the presence of the President of the United States as the CEO or whatever, the owner of your own company. Yeah. What did that feel like? What was the question? What particular question ran through your mind at some point?
Wow, it was amazing. In fact, I still have it in my home. And that, I say, when you go to White House meetings, and you know, they'll have the little, you know, the little tents with your name and your title and your organization, and I just kind of, it's sad to say, but after a while, when you've been there for several things, you begin to take it for granted. But I will say that the first time I went there and I saw my name tent with my own company on it, I stole it.
Wow. Posterity.
So it's in my office. I got it on my bookshelf right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I was just like, that's my, but you know what? But the thing that I really want your listeners to take away from that example is the degree to which, here's the thing. Your mind has the ability to make real what you choose to make real, okay? Everything that you see started out as a mere concept in somebody's mind. The chair that I'm sitting on, the technology that we're using right now to be able to talk with each other, it started out as an idea. It started out as a concept. And it was studied, and there was trial and error, and ultimately it was made into something real and physical, something workable. And the reason why I took that name tent is because I remember when I came up with that name, Insight Unlimited, and I remember thinking about it and why I even chose the name. And then I'm thinking, will anybody take it seriously? Well, you know, will I have clients? You know, you have all those questions and all those doubts. But to have this concept that I had in my mind a year before be recognized as a real entity and respected to such degree that it was on a table and around the table with the President of the United States, just blew my mind. And so I feel like just think about, you know, what you could do. I'm just speaking to your listeners now. If you believed in your ideas enough to actually go about the process of making them real. See, that's really the difference between really operating within your purpose and living the life that you choose, you creating your life, not being a person that allow others to impose on you, but you actually become sort of the captain of your own ship. It was just a very fulfilling day, and it was one that I will never forget. And it just made real for me that if I could do that, then what else can I do?
Well, congratulations. If your grandmother, Ada, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
Yeah.
If she were still alive, what would she have said to you after you came home from that meeting?
You think you something. No. I mean, well, I don't know. I think that I think she would have smiled. I think she would have felt fulfilled, because I do know that her last words, I was a last thought on her mind. She knew that we were very, very close, and my mother was with her when she passed away. And her last words were, "Poor Avis, what's going to happen to her?" And then she just said, "It's too beautiful to behold," and she passed away. And so her parting thoughts were about me. And I think about that often. And I think that, if I had the opportunity to see her now, I would let her know that I'm okay, and I'm beyond okay. I have become, I think, who I am in large part because of who she was, and the imprint that she left on my life, and the strength that she continues to give me. With her dignity and her strong backbone, just poured into me this feeling ever since I was a little girl, that there is no one worthy of me being intimidated by them. That I stand at the same stature as anyone. And even though I love, and very obviously, who wouldn't be excited about being the president of the United States? At the end of the day, he is a man, just like I'm a woman. And so he's a human being. And he's not, honestly, as a person, I tell you, when you are in the same room as the president, it becomes very obvious that we have a Black president, okay? Because the way he walks in the room, you're just like, he gives you, our mannerisms.
Right.
So it puts you very much at home, and you realize, this is an individual. So she gave me that feeling from a young age that, yeah, I deserve to be there. And so I'm comfortable in those spaces.
As you travel around the country and speak with women of varying economic and social backgrounds, what are some common connections and pains you observe among Black women?
Yeah. Well, we are, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, nurturers. We are caretakers. We are the ones who make sure that our families survive. We are the heart and the lifeblood of our communities. And that is true, I think, across the spectrum of Black women, whether I'm meeting with Black women in Tanzania or in Trinidad and Tobago or in the Bahamas or in Guyana or here in the United States, in New York, or in a small rural town like where I'm from. We are all that rock for our communities.
Yeah.
And I love that about us.
In the chat room, Hazel asked, why are they so fearful of our potential reaction?
Woo. Okay, so I'm going to be very honest here. I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real. I think there's an element of guilt in that. That explains it. And I also think what explains it is a fear that what is historically has been within them will be within us. So what I mean by that is I think there's a fear that if we have the upper hand, if we have power, that we will attempt to be as ruthless and as just hateful in terms of the way that we wield power, that historically they have been. And I think that's part of why you've seen such a huge backlash to this particular president, why you've seen the sort of level of disrespect that this president has suffered, that no other president has suffered, because I do believe that there is an element, and that's also why you saw a skyrocketing of gun sales when this president was elected. That's why you have 400% more death threats against this president than any other president we've ever had. All of that is tied up into this issue of fear melding with Black power in various forms, whether it's political power, whether it's power in your company setting. There is fear of Black power because there is a sense that we will wield power for oppression in the way that it's been wielded in terms of implementing oppression in the past.
What are some simple ways, just a few, that women can empower themselves?
I think the first thing that you need to do is love yourself. I mean, it seems simple, but it's not that easy these days. It really isn't, because we are bombarded by all these messages, and particularly as Black women, we are bombarded by all these messages. And it's very interesting because one of my pet peeves is the fact that, as I mentioned, we're magic, we're innovators. So a lot of the things that are very natural for us, that are distinctive for us, the way we wear our hair, our beautiful skin tone, our physiques, when we do it, and when we are the beauty that we are, and the magnificence that we are, oftentimes it's either ignored or downplayed or rejected overtly in some way. But when other women attempt to emulate it, it is held up as if it's some sort of wonderful innovation that they created, and it's all of a sudden this beautiful, magnificent thing. Hence the whole, run on, plastic surgery for butt enhancements, the whole industry behind, tanning salons, lip injections, even, glued dreadlocks, I guess. So that part of it, we have to own who we are as innovators, as magic in that way, and love ourselves in spite of what others might say. And then another thing I would just say, spend some time reading about the magnificence of, Black women in our past. I know that I have always gained strength from being inspired by those women and men who came before me. And when I learn about those individuals and what they were able to accomplish and the amazing things that we have done, and, then I can't help but know that I am confident in who I am, and that I, in fact, am, today's version of a queen. And that's just how you have to think of yourself.
I like that.
Carry yourself.
I really do like that. Embrace it. I love that a lot, actually. Today's version of a queen. Mm-hmm. What have you learned about yourself within the lifespan of your career?
That I can live my dreams. I mean, I've always, admired my dad for being a successful entrepreneur. Uh-huh. I've always loved that. That's been one of the things I'm most proudest about him. And I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, but my life had just never taken me, I guess I was intimidated about actually doing it. I couldn't really figure out how to do it from my skill set and where I was. And so just the fact that I've been able to make that transition and to make that transition successfully has really inspired me. And so that's why one of the things that I'm looking to do with my institute is to help other women be able to go from concept to you know, six-figure success quickly in terms of developing their own economy. Because quite frankly, for a lot of us, you know, we could spend our whole lives giving our best in our careers, but we'll never maximize our opportunities to the degree that we could have if we would just follow that dream that we want to do, but we don't quite know exactly how to get there and do it.
How do these women find you if they need your advice?
Sure. Well, I definitely have, in fact, I have a special free gift for your viewers. And they can log on to exceptionalleadershipinstitute.com or my name, avisjonesdeweever.com. It'll both send you to the same place. I'm right now giving my my website a facelift, but it'll be up later on this month. But if you would at least put in your name and your email address, then when I go live, I have a free strategy guide that I want to give all of your listeners. That's going to give them some very easy information on how they can avoid overwhelm at work, which I know we always get, you know, everything thrown at us. So how to be able to wade through that to do the most important things. And also in the process, get noticed and get ahead. So it's going to help you to be able to reach career success a little bit quicker with the strategy guide.
Avis, whose voice are you listening to in your head when things are not going right for you? Who do you channel?
Once again, I do go back to my grandmother because she was a, you know, she was just an amazing spirit. She could do, I don't know, it's just something about her. She was very calming. I never saw her overwhelmed. She was very proud and regal, but at the same time, just someone who could handle any situation.
What do you miss most about her?
I'm sorry?
What do you miss most about her?
I wish that I would have had more time with her. She died when I was in 4th grade. And if I would have had more time with her, I would love to be able to pick her brain now. I mean, she would know things like how to go in the woods and figure out what herbs and what to pick to make you feel better. Exactly. Wow. I would love to ask her more about what she experienced as a child, because I didn't have the chance to have those sort of conversations with her. I would just love to be able to have that time with her.
When are you most happy?
You know, I'm most happy right now. I mean, this is an amazing time in my life. Honestly, I'm at the happiest point in my life, which is really part of what inspired me to start my new institute. Because I want every woman to get here. And it took me, you know, 40 years to get here. You know, this eclipse, you know, and it's not always been rosy. You know, I've been through divorce, all of that good stuff. But I will say that I am at the happiest moment in my life right now because I am in a career that I love. I'm in a loving, you know, very supportive relationship. I have 2 boys that I'm super proud of and love. And I see a future for myself that I'm working towards that inspires me each and every day. And so really, it's not much more than I can ask than that. I'm very happy. And the only thing that would make me happier is if I could like bring some more people along with me so that they could experience it.
Awesome. What are you most thankful for?
I'm most thankful for, I'm most thankful that I still have my parents with me. My parents have been married for over 50 years. They are both in their mid to upper 80s, like their mid 80s. They're at that stage in their life where they absolutely have no filter. So they say whatever they want to say, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And it is so hilarious talking to them. I mean,
in the chat room, Frank Denbo said, Avis, you are a fantastic person. Kudos to you. Keep on doing your thing. Proud to know you. And 5 exclamation marks after that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
When you think back on the long arc of your career, what did you get right and what did you get wrong?
Good question. What did I get right and what did I get wrong? I got right following my heart because I knew that whatever I wanted to do, it was going to be in the social justice space. And so I wouldn't have been happy I would have gone in another direction, you know, just for money or whatever. And it really is true that if you do what you love, the money does come in some way, shape, or form. It'll come. So I'm happy that I followed that instinct and went in that direction. Probably the biggest mistake that I made, but I'm not sure that. See, the thing is, I think of mistakes differently because I think of them as learning experiences.
So do I. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't think that, you know, there have been things that I've been through that have been painful experiences, but I'm glad that I went through them because I'm better off on the other side. I will say that my last professional position was a serious challenge. It was a serious challenge. I inherited an organization that was going through some significant financial challenges. And then on top of that, the structure of the governance of the organization was very unique. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very unique. So navigating those two challenges at the same time, I learned a lot. I worked hard. I think that I did the best that anyone could have done under the circumstances that I inherited. But I'm glad I had that experience, and I made some wonderful relationships that I maintained as a result of those years. And so it was not easy. It was hard time, but it was a great learning experience, and I'm glad that I had it. And it helped to give me skills and belief in myself that I think I needed to be able to develop a successful business on my own.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 15-year-old self?
Let's see. Okay, if I was, what I would tell my 15-year-old self is, you're going to leave Clarksville, Virginia. That's what I wanted most of that time. I was like, I got to get out of this town. You how you are. I was like, 1.5 stoplights. I just had this thing about wanting to go to 1.5 stoplights. Seriously, a half a stoplight because it just blinked. So you didn't have so that was my metropolis growing up. So yes, you are actually going to leave Clarksville.
Oh my gosh. Last question. I ask all my guests this particular question. What makes you laugh out loud?
Oh my gosh. What makes me laugh out loud? Golly, the silly thing, my voice, stuff that comes out of their mouth sometimes is hilarious. Them and my parents, my parents need their own reality show, really. I mean, sometimes my parents need their own reality show, really. I mean, sometimes they say things in front of me, I'm like, I didn't need to hear that. I really didn't. Don't forget I was here. I'm like, you don't want to think of your parents in that way. It's just not cool. Right. So, they make me laugh. I mean, you're here, but you don't need the dirty details. You just don't. You don't.
It's not cool. You're too old for therapy, man.
No. I might need therapy. I don't know.
Well, Avis, I have to say it again. Thank you for spending this time with us. As I said, this month I'm inviting phenomenal women to share their phenomenal experiences with us. And you're definitely a phenomenal woman.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you. Thank you so very much. And I do hope I can invite you to come back again at some point on my other program, CWS As It Is, which is on Sundays. It's short, it's like half-hour segments. And of course, there are opportunities for panel discussions with other women and so on. Well, we'll talk about that offline.
Sounds great.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm glad our friend Frank joined us this evening.
Yes.
And made that comment. So this is Selwyn Collins saying, thank you all for listening. Fear not what fear whispers to you. Fear your obedience to it. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.